Most men fundamentally misunderstand how attraction works when communicating with women. They operate under the false assumption that more words equal more connection, flooding her inbox with lengthy texts, oversharing their emotions prematurely, and constantly seeking to reassure her of their interest. This approach doesn't create intimacy. It kills mystery, the very oxygen that female desire needs to breathe. The fatal mistake stems from confusing female communication styles with attraction triggers. While women often bond through verbal exchange and friendships, romantic attraction follows entirely different rules. A woman doesn't fall in love with what you say, but with what she imagines you might be thinking. The space between messages matters more than the messages themselves. That 3-hour delay before your reply? That's not neglect, it's the blank canvas where her imagination paints you as more intriguing than you could ever describe yourself to be. Modern dating has become a minefield of over-communication. Social media and smartphones have trained men to believe immediate response equals genuine interest. So they double text when she takes hours to reply, send paragraph-long declarations when a smirk would suffice, and systematically destroy any semblance of mystique through compulsive transparency. The man who shares his entire life story on the first date might as well hand her a boredom contract to sign. This communication gluttony stems from male insecurity, masquerading as vulnerability. Men think they're being emotionally available when in reality, they're emotionally desperate, vomiting their feelings not because the moment calls for it, but because they fear silence might make her lose interest. What they fail to understand is that a woman's attraction grows during the pauses, not the speeches. Her fascination peaks when she's wondering why you're not like other guys who blow up her phone with needy validation. The solution isn't playing games, it's understanding female psychology at its core. Women are drawn to men whose emotional landscape isn't fully mapped. When you communicate with measured restraint, you're not being cold. You're allowing her the mental space to project her ideal partner onto you. Every unanswered question about your past, every cryptic response to her probing, every time you deflect personal questions with humor, these become the building blocks of obsession. The most attractive communication style exists in the tension between presence and elusiveness. It's the text that makes her smile but doesn't beg for a reply. The date where you share just enough to intrigue but never enough to satisfy. The conversation you end first, leaving her wanting more. This isn't manipulation, it's understanding. That desire requires room to breathe, and most men suffocate it with premature emotional exposure. The key isn't saying less, it's making what you say worth waiting for. The most powerful messages are often the ones never sent. Strategic silence isn't about playing mind games, it's understanding that a woman's imagination will always paint a more compelling picture than your words ever could. When you resist the urge to immediately fill every conversational void, you create space for her desire to grow in the darkness between your interactions. That unread notification icon becomes a psychological trigger far more potent than any carefully crafted love letter. Men fear silence because they mistake it for disinterest. In reality, it's the fertile ground where attraction takes root. Consider the difference between two scenarios. In the first, you reply instantly to every text, your eagerness bleeding through the screen. In the second, you let certain messages linger, not out of spite, but because you're genuinely engaged in your own life. The first approach makes you predictable. The second makes you intriguing. One positions you as a supplicant, the other as a man with better things to do than wait by his phone. The magic of delayed response lies in its ability to recalibrate the power dynamic. When you consistently reply within seconds, you train her to expect instant gratification, and human nature dictates we value what we wait for more than what comes easily. A 3-hour gap between messages does more for your attractiveness than 3 paragraphs of poetic compliments ever could. This isn't manipulation. It's basic psychology applied to modern dating. The dopamine hit she gets when your name finally appears on her screen, after an intentional pause, outweighs any immediate response. Quality. Communication follows the same principles as gourmet dining. The space between courses matters as much as the food itself. A master chef understands that palate cleansers prepare you for the next flavor experience. Similarly, strategic silences between interactions reset her emotional palate, making your next communication hit with greater impact. The man who texts in thoughtful bursts separated by hours of focused living creates more anticipation than the one who provides a running commentary of his day. The true art lies in balancing presence with absence. Complete radio silence breeds confusion, while constant availability breeds contempt. The sweet spot exists in the rhythm of engaged but not eager responses. Answering her questions with wit but not walls of text. Being responsive but never predictable. This measured approach transforms ordinary exchanges into emotional events, making each notification from you feel like a small victory in her mind rather than an expected obligation. The most seductive words are the ones left unspoken. Emotional ambiguity works like a psychological magnet. The less certainty you provide, the harder she worked to decode your intentions. Women don't crave men who wear their hearts on their sleeves. They're drawn to those who make them work to uncover deeper layers. This isn't about deception, it's about maintaining enough mystery to keep her emotionally invested in solving your puzzle. Most men make the fatal error of believing transparency equals attraction. They confess feelings too early, explain themselves too thoroughly, and eliminate all sense of challenge through verbal overexposure. The man who says, "I think I'm falling for you" on the third date might as well hand her a roadmap to his vulnerabilities. Contrast this with the man who communicates through subtle actions and controlled revelations. His occasional intense eye contact says more than any love letter ever could. He understands that what's hinted at always feels more significant than what's stated outright. The power of the unsaid manifests in everyday interactions. When she asks about your dating history and you respond with a smirk and "let's save some mysteries for later," you've created more intrigue than any detailed answer could. When she texts, "What are you thinking about?" and you reply, "You'll find out Friday," you've transformed a mundane exchange into an anticipatory event. These calculated withholdings aren't evasions, they're emotional investment hooks that keep her mentally engaged between encounters. Timing becomes your most potent tool in cultivating ambiguity. The man who texts back immediately with "I miss you too" gives away all his cards. The one who waits several hours and responds with "You've been on my mind" at the most random moments today makes her wonder which specific memories triggered his thoughts. This approach turns ordinary conversations into psychological treasure hunts, where she's constantly searching for hidden meanings beneath your words. Mastering emotional ambiguity requires resisting the modern dating world's pressure for instant emotional accessibility. Social media has conditioned people to expect complete transparency, making the art of subtlety even more powerful. When you're the one man who doesn't post his every thought and feeling, who maintains some private inner world she can't fully access, you become the exception in her feed. Your occasional cryptic Instagram story or deliberately vague comment will hold more weight than another guy's emotional oversharing because it suggests depth without revealing it. This careful balance between presence and mystery makes you subconsciously stand out in an era of compulsive overexposure. Texting has become the modern dating battleground where most men unknowingly surrender their advantage through predictable patterns. The speed and tone of your messages communicate more about your value than the actual words you type. Women instinctively analyze response times as status indicators. The quicker you reply, the more available you appear. The more you explain, the less mysterious you become. Master this digital dance, and you control the emotional tempo of the relationship without saying a word. Every notification is a psychological lever. The man who answers within seconds every time conditions her to expect instant validation, training her to value his attention less. The man who varies his response times, quick when genuinely engaged, slower when busy, maintains an air of unpredictability that keeps her guessing. This isn't about playing games, it's about refusing to be reduced to an on-demand entertainment source. Your delayed responses should stem from actual priorities, not manufactured disinterest, creating authentic tension rather than false scarcity. The content of your messages matters less than their construction. Paragraph-length texts full of explanations and qualifiers scream insecurity, while concise, declarative statements project confidence. Compare "I was thinking maybe we could grab dinner Friday if you're free. No worries, if not with dinner Friday, I know a place you'll love." The first positions you as a supplicant seeking approval, the second as someone offering an experience worth having. This linguistic framing subconsciously communicates where you stand in the hierarchy of attraction. Emojis and punctuation become subtle power indicators when used strategically. Excessive smiley faces and exclamation points dilute your masculine energy, while occasional well-placed smirks or single-word responses create intriguing contrast. The period at the end of a blunt text carries more weight than 3 laughing emojis because it suggests you're not seeking her approval through performative enthusiasm. Your digital tone should mirror your in-person presence, comfortable with silence, unafraid of tension, and never begging for a reaction. The golden rule of texting: always leave the conversation first. Ending exchanges on your terms maintains psychological momentum rather than letting interactions fizzle into awkward silence. A simple "got to handle something, this was fun" communicates you have a life beyond the chat while leaving her wanting more. This disciplined approach prevents you from becoming just another notification in her phone and instead positions you as someone whose attention must be earned through genuine connection rather than constant availability. The men who linger in women's memories long after they're gone understand a fundamental truth. Obsession isn't created through constant presence, but through the art of strategic absence. These men become emotional phantoms, not because they play games, but because they refuse to dilute their essence through overexposure. While other guys bombard her with attention, the unforgettable man knows his real power lies in the spaces between contact, in the mysteries he leaves unsolved, and in the dignified way he withdraws before she's ready to let go. This phenomenon explains why women often obsess over past relationships where the man provided inconsistent affection rather than steady devotion. The brain becomes addicted to unpredictable rewards far more than guaranteed ones. By becoming the man who occasionally disappears without explanation, who alternates between intense focus and casual detachment, you wire her nervous system to crave your attention like a gambler waiting for the next jackpot. Each return after absence triggers a dopamine surge, more powerful than any daily good morning text could ever produce. The key lies in mastering the illusion of depth without revealing your full hand. Share just enough to suggest fascinating complexity, but never so much that she can fully categorize you. When she asks about your childhood, offer one intriguing detail, but deflect requests for your full life story. When she probes your feelings, answer with a meaningful look rather than a dictionary of emotions. This controlled revelation makes every interaction feel like discovering another piece of a puzzle she can't quite solve, and the human mind compulsively fixates on unsolved puzzles. Your exits matter more than your entrances. Most relationships fade into a slow, mutual disinterest, but the unforgettable man knows when to make a dramatic exit stage left. Whether ending a date first, being the one to say goodbye at the end of the night, or ultimately walking away from a situationship that no longer serves him, he understands that final impressions cement legacy. These deliberate withdrawals aren't about manipulation, they're about maintaining self-respect while leaving her with the haunting question of what if the relationship doesn't gradually fizzle. It ends while still in her mind, preserved at its peak like a rose frozen in glass. The contrast principle becomes your secret weapon. After weeks of playful teasing, one moment of unexpected vulnerability lands with nuclear impact. Following periods of limited contact, a single, spontaneous romantic gesture carries more weight than daily flowers. This emotional judo, using contrast rather than consistency to create intensity, plays on the way human attention naturally focuses on change rather than constancy. Her nervous system registers these strategic shifts as significant events, while steady treatment fades into background noise. Your digital footprint should cultivate mystique long after you're gone. Social media posts that hint at an exciting life without oversharing, Spotify playlists with cryptic titles that seem to reference private jokes, occasional check-in texts that appear out of the blue. These become the breadcrumbs that keep her mentally engaged during your absences. The goal isn't to haunt her every thought, but to ensure when she does think of you, it's with a pang of curiosity about what you might be doing or who you might be with. Final lesson: the whisper always drowns out the shout. In an era where men compete through volume, louder declarations, more frequent contact, bigger gestures, the most powerful communication happens in the spaces between words. When you master the art of saying less but meaning more, when you replace compulsive sharing with intentional revelation, you don't just enter her life, you take up residence in her imagination. The phantom effect isn't about being remembered, it's about being unforgettable. Not because you begged for her attention, but because you valued your own enough to never give it all away. This is how legends are built in love and life, not through exhaustive explanation, but through leaving just enough mystery to make the world lean in and wonder.